What is up, SVSers? Welcome to the 91st edition of the SVS Audiophile Happy Hour. Welcome to my colleagues here in crime. We are super happy to be here. It's been a while. We've all been on the road for quite a bit, and Ed's been surviving some injuries that we'll get to in a little bit. But I wanted to welcome everyone here. Thank you for everyone
Look at
already been sharing awesome comments.
Maybe we should give a prize to the first person who guesses what happened to Ed.
Oh, that might be fun. Actually,
I'm trying to make it not obvious, but I moved my camera, and so it's not focusing on that part of my face.
Turn your head from side to side, Ed. Just real slowly. All right. And now turn your head the other way.
And then we got.
All right. Well,
must have went from that all the way over here. Wow.
Well, let's see if we get some good guesses there. But let's go around first and say hello to everyone. Larry, of course, our director of training here, off to my right or left, depending where you're looking from. Larry, how are you?
I am good. I'm home in my new mess of a home office entertainment space. So that's why the camera's blurred, because it is just a mess behind me. But
you're upgrading the space, right?
Yeah, I'm getting a much larger room, but it's going to take a very long time to move through it, thanks to everything we've got going on. So, but I'm excited for it.
Excellent. Well, always nice to see you there at home for once. And Gary, our president, off there to the right. How are you, Gary?
You know, I really look forward to this all week long. I'm really happy to be with the SVS community. So yeah, happy to be here.
I think we might have a winner. Ed, what happened?
How did you get that, GK Scott? Good for you.
Ailment.
Somebody else said Boggy or two, and they were close. I look like a Division I collegiate wrestler. And I got
what do they call that? Cauliflower ear.
Cauliflower ear on this side. I got stung by a wasp, and the stinger stayed in my ear for a couple minutes until we were able to pull it out, and it just blew up. I mean, that's my normal ear there, and this thing's at least 50% bigger, and it's red, and I can't even bend it. It's very painful, but that's the running joke around the office today is cauliflower ear.
Well, I love the fact that you got an ear implant to be able to hear better, and the other one was coming later. But I think the bog ear is a good one too.
Yeah, so. I mean, people go like this to hear better. I got that built in now on this side. That thing's really big.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering what's next for Ed. Ed has had quite the year. I mean, he had the back thing. He had the
abdominal surgery,
and now a bee stung his ear,
and food poisoning.
Oh, and food poisoning from undercooked chicken liver. That one's on you.
That was on me. I own that one.
Undercooked chicken. Oh, yikes. Well, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. Of course, we have 3 fantastic giveaways this evening. All you got to do to be eligible is to leave a comment, and I'm seeing all these wonderful comments guessing about Ed's ailments, as well as people telling where they're tuning in from. So thank you for all of that. 1 comment gets you 1 entry. 1 million comments does not get you 1 million entries, but we love to see the conversations anyway. So feel free to converse with the fellow community members. Larry, did you do your homework? Do you know what we have for giveaways on tap tonight?
I did, and I do. So as Nick said, we've got 3 giveaways. The first one's going to be a pair of our Prime bookshelf speakers, followed up by an SB1000 Pro subwoofer, and then a pair of Ultra Evolution Nanos that the more I use at these events, I'm really falling in love with their sound.
I think they're
amazing.
The Nano is the small bookshelf speaker for people who don't know.
Yeah, but I think
big sound.
They might be the most surprising of the entire line, just as far as what they can do for output. We've used them as surrounds, we've used them as fronts. They're such a versatile speaker, and they do have a tremendous amount of
amazing bass for their size.
Totally.
Well, before we get into our listening recommendations, I know, Larry, you're fresh off a trip to North Carolina, where I already saw a couple of people commenting from Raleigh. Any words you'd like to share in terms of what you did this weekend?
Yeah, we were at Audio Advice Live. So it was myself, Ken, our director of sales, and Eli, part of our marketing team, that were there this weekend. And we had a room with a 5.1.2 home theater and a 2-channel bookshelf system that we were showcasing. And we had, I don't know, easily the busiest room in our space the whole weekend, just interacting with a lot of you, doing music demos, doing movie demos. and really blowing people away with the fact that it was a bookshelf-based system. And I think it's the smallest system we've ever done at in regards to physical size at any of these shows. But man, we were going around to a lot of the rooms. We had a lot of people coming to us just saying how impressive the system was, considering it was a bookshelf-based home theater, and then playing 2-channel music. And we kind of did some deep dives on some movies as well. Went back to some older content just to kind of try it out, and had a lot of fun with you all this weekend in Raleigh.
Yeah, I know that show has really grown by leaps and bounds over the past few years, and I love that we're able to exhibit there. And that bookshelf system, I mean, I was seeing comments in some of our social just about how incredible it sounded. And like you said, first time ever we've done an all bookshelf system, and switching between 2-channel and home theater. So kudos to you guys for putting on a show this weekend. And we also had a live stream last week from one of our top dealers in Maryland. Gary, you want to say any words about Gramophone and the experience that we had there with that fine store? And I do have to apologize in advance because it was so busy. We had people sort of scattered throughout the store, but the turnout was just awesome. And we had a lot of people who at the end. So that's always a good sign as far as how an event goes.
Well, this is my backyard. It's in Columbia. It was in Columbia, Maryland, at the Gramophone there, and DC traffic just got rated the worst traffic in the country, even worse than LA. So the fact that we got almost 200 people at this event that driving, some people driving as far away as Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is like a 6-hour drive. It was just really great. The people were super warm and welcoming, and I saw even people that I have worked with in the past, and one son of a person who I worked with years ago, who now works at Gramophone. So very, very cool. Loved it. And I don't think it's going to be our last DC area event, just for the SVS community. I suspect we'll do one at IQ in Fairfax, Virginia. That's not scheduled yet, but I believe we will do it before the year is over. And I would also predict we'll do one at Electronics Expo in the northern New Jersey, New York area.
And we've been teasing the idea of a Vegas show. So that could be a destination for some people to want to travel out to Vegas, maybe spend a couple days and hang out at an SVS event. But no,
that's certainly why I want to do the event in Vegas.
That's right.
All the craps tables are calling me.
Yeah, I feel you there.
And we should talk about the Worldwide Stereo event. I just realized that's actually one that's on the schedule.
Yeah, I usually tease the events, as part of the end. But Worldwide Stereo, one of our top partners in Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania, right outside Philadelphia, on Tuesday, August 26th, we'll be doing a Sound Revolution Experience event there.
And you can do what I'm going to do, which is I'm going to take the train to the event on August 26th. And then August 27th, I'm going to take the train up to East Rutherford, New Jersey, and see System of a Down at MetLife Stadium. How about that?
Now that's a field trip right there. Is that a team event, Gary? I'm not sure my invite.
You are welcome, buddy. I'm in the pit. You'll be right there with me.
All right.
Are you going to
System of the Down pit is dangerous, though. You feel like you're inside a living thing.
A mosh pit?
It's not violent, but it's very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the mosh pit. I feel like has sort of gone away. I mean, I haven't been to a metal show in a while, but it seems like even like the Chili Peppers, like do people even mosh at those anymore?
Well, I mean, there's a pit, but nobody's violating. We're in 2025. No one's violating anyone's personal space anymore. That's not happening.
Yeah. Well, especially I think some of these bands that I used to mosh to, the people who go to these shows are in no condition to be slam dancing and throwing each other around. So it's probably better for all of our health.
Well, it is. I'll tell you a funny story. Well, maybe not funny to the person I'm telling it on. When I was years ago, when I was working in DC, I was going to a Tool concert, and someone I worked with was in the pit of the concert, and he said to me, "Is there any danger in the pit?" And I'm like, "Not for a Tool concert. People are not dancing to Tool." Lo and behold, the next day he was wearing a cast. Somebody had hurtled sideways into his knee, and his leg didn't break, but he was in but it, I guess, ripped his knee apart. And he was in a cast for months after that, on my bad advice.
So there you go. You got to always keep your head on a swivel when you go to those Tool shows or pretty much any shows.
Nick, I'm going to send you some videos from some shows I've gone to if you want to see some cool pits.
Yeah. Well, I was at the
Flicker Stick has a pit.
No, Avatar, Brand New Day, New Year's Day. All these bands have a pretty amazing pit.
Well, okay. I think the last mosh pit, like slam dance, I was in was at the most recent Woodstock that turned into Fire and Brimstone, and I think I learned my lesson after that one that slam dancing is not for me. But I would love to see in the comments. You got mosh pits? Tell me the best mosh pit. What band that you were at, and you escaped major injury, or maybe you did get major injury. Either way, I'd love to see what shows you guys have been to that featured that kind of.
We're watching the comments, guys.
Yeah,
hey, got to have that wall of death at the metal show, man.
Oh yeah, baby. All right. Well, we got some listening recommendations. I would love to report back that I saw the Lumineers at Fenway Park, and that was. I mean, I've seen a couple shows there, but the acoustics of this show, or maybe it was where I was seating, sort of in like the upper loge section, just sounded phenomenal. And they had these graphic panels behind them that I think must have been acoustically, like acoustic treatments or something, because there was just not effect. It was super clean. The vocals were easy to hear. The instrumentals came through. Sometimes it's sort of a blurred mess, but Fenway or Lumineers, whoever handled the acoustics there, did a phenomenal job.
Well, you saw Red Hot Chili Peppers at Fenway Park. That was 2 days after I saw them at Nationals Park in DC. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but John Frusciante, who's somebody I basically idolize, was on a podcast with Rick Rubin. And Rick Rubin asked him, "Are there any shows where you're just in a bad mood?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I was in a really bad mood at Nationals Park, and I have no reason. Don't know why, but I was in a terrible mood. But my favorite show, one of my favorite shows of the tour, I was in an amazing mood 2 days later at Fenway Park. Now, personally, I thought the show at Nationals Park was great, but maybe I don't know."
I mean, I love the energy they had. The acoustics just were not great where I was sitting behind home plate. But you know what? I think maybe sometimes anger helps you perform better. But I thought he ripped. I mean, he was great.
No, I'm saying he was in a good mood at your show.
No, I know. I'm saying I'm sure he, you could barely tell what his mood was just because he's such a talent. But
well, that's interesting. I think you're right.
That plays out. A couple more recommendations. I've been in a comedy kick recently, so I went and did the entire Tires show with Shane Gillis, and just some really good character, comedy there. If you're a fan of his comedy, which I know is not for everyone, but I found it very watchable, and they're short episodes. So I would recommend Tires for people who like sort of goofy comedy. I'm dying to see The Naked Gun. I was such a huge fan of the original. So good. And I've heard it's not quite as good as the original, but they really maintain sort of that level of slapstick with, the same kind of portrayal of like a cop comedy. So I cannot see that soon enough, but I'll probably wait to rent it. And then tomorrow night, Larry, you'll be disappointed, but we're going to do a family movie night with the new Jurassic Park movie. I know you almost walked out on it, but I got a 9-year-old now, and he's dying to see it. So for him, it's like a stretch as far as the violence goes. So.
Yeah, I mean the dinosaurs are cool, but yeah, I really wanted to leave, but I wanted to see the dinosaurs, so I hung out. And we're doing a movie tomorrow too. So
okay, good times. Well, Ed, if you can hear us, what have you been listening to, watching recently with your painful that you're there?
Well, I've been getting my son ready to transfer to the SUNY Maritime College in downstate New York. So I've been very busy with that, wrapping up details, but I managed to watch, no listening, but managed to watch Old Guard 2. It was terrible. I don't recommend it. And I'll
delete it from my iPad for this next trip.
Currently watching Craven, which seemed okay for the first 15 minutes, but I had to pause that. Are we going to talk about Ozzy? I just want to give a nod to Ozzy. And my favorite Black Sabbath song is War Pigs. To me, it's the quintessential Sabbath song, and Ozzy just had such a huge influence on the industry. I thought it was worth mentioning. Rest in peace.
They played War Pigs at that last final show. That was, I don't know how many songs they did, but that was one of them. saw that some comments about that.
There's been a ton of tributes. Like a lot of the live acts over the past couple of weeks have been playing Ozzy songs, and I think that's so cool. Like from all genres. Of course, I'm blanking on all of them right now, but I think there was like a folk singer who did an Ozzy song, and so it's it shows what an influence he was on the.
He was really loved. Listen, I'm not a big, despite my reputation, I'm not that much of a metal fan, and I did like Black Sabbath when I was very, very young. But I find Ozzy's career totally remarkable because they kicked him out of Black Sabbath. They kicked him out, and he's like, "Fine, I'll do my own thing." And I think his wife Sharon helped him get going with that. But he basically was bigger than Black Sabbath almost immediately, and kept it going.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever really happened before, and where something like as big as Black Sabbath, and then the singer leaves, and usually the singer is not the one who can continue the career. They're not usually the one that writes the songs, and just he definitely redefined that genre, and sorry that he died so young, but he left such a lasting impression on so many musicians.
Yeah. Well, he'll be missed, but I think his legacy will live on absolutely with all the music that he's made. Gary, I know you've been working a lot and had some travels. Any other recommendations you want to make as far as listening? And I think maybe we can give away what your Atmos demo was at Gramophone, since we did live stream.
Did we never say it? I don't think we ever did.
Not on Happy Hour. We did it, during the show, because obviously we were broadcasting it. But
yeah,
I thought it went over amazingly well.
Yeah, it did, really. And this was something that I experienced. I told the story at Gramophone. I experienced this demo for the first time at the theater of Dolby headquarters, which is supposedly like $100 million theater. It's just crazy, over-the-top theater, insulated from earthquakes I didn't even know there was a subway in San Francisco, and I lived there for 2 years, but apparently there is one, and they insulated from the vibrations from the subway. So they were talking about Dolby Atmos music, which is something I had in my mind had a little bit of a bias against. Like, why would you take a stereo recording and make it multi-channel? It seems like not necessary. And they did this demo of Rocket Man by Elton John, and it absolutely was jaw-dropping, gave me shivers. And I was convinced that reignited my appreciation of Elton John's music, which had definitely lapsed over the years. And after I got home, I actually signed back up for Apple Music, which I hadn't had for years, because I like our Qobuz. Just so I could experience this for myself with my Apple TV with different content. And I was just absolutely floored at how good some of these Dolby Atmos mixes of music are. So I definitely recommend exploring it. I will say sometimes it's not a plus. Sometimes it's a little bit of a negative, I think, but at least half the time it's really a benefit and very cool.
Well, I think Rocket Man too, it just has that sort of vibe of wanting to have atmosphere and, give you these effects of happening, sound happening from all around. So that one really lends itself well, but definitely something worth exploring if you have Apple TV, or if you're able to, access it, some of the other spatial audio solutions that they have out there.
Yeah. Right. And you're right. It added to it. Remember, these recordings, even back then, are multi-track recordings. So they have the ability, if they go back to the master, of creating a legit multi-track recording, not pretending it's multi-track from two tracks.
Yeah. Well, I love all these suggestions of the mosh pit. We totally didn't plan this, but I'm glad to see everyone has survived.
Like we have some veterans of the mosh pit.
I'll be in one in a few weeks. So
20 years ago, it was like such a thing. You'd go to the show just for the mosh pit, and the potential to get.
Here's someone who did the mosh pit at the New York Philharmonic. How about that?
I saw Simon and Garfunkel in there. I'm like,
they don't even let you take a selfie, my friend. I do not believe that story.
Gary, you ever been crowd surfed?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 205 pounds. Are you kidding me? I would need. I would need a pro
I do want to share
football
one quick
player
thing.
to do it.
My friend sent me a video. He went to the Newport Folk Fest, which is in Rhode Island here, and Public Enemy was actually one of the lead acts at the Newport Folk Fest. And they showed Flava Flav jumping off stage getting crowd surfed, which I was like, he should probably not be doing that. And I can't believe this is happening at Folk Fest. So
It's gonna lose its chain.
yeah, I'm gonna lose that clock. But all right, enough recommendations here. Let's do a giveaway and then jump into some Q&A. So first,
I didn't get to do any of mine, dude.
What?
Larry had a good demo at Audio Advice Live. We better let him tell us.
I'll make it quick because I feel like we're running a little long. But yeah,
we're good. So this is good.
I took an evening last week to go to local theater when I was in Raleigh, and I went to go see Together, the new kind of body horror movie with James Franco and Alison Brie. And that was pretty interesting and had some fun turns. But then I saw Naked Gun and laughing literally from the jump through the end credits. And you have to pay attention in the credits too, because there's even bits in the physical credits themselves. Really enjoyed it. And there's a few lines that'll definitely go down as historic one-liners. And I've been getting caught up on Now You See Me, the franchise. I watched 1 and 2 during the travel because the new movie's coming out soon. But tomorrow I'm going to go see the new movie Weapons, so I'm excited for that one. But at Audio Advice Live,
truly a movie buff.
I love movies, but the music of them as well. And to get, if you guys travel like I do, you get tired of going and sitting in restaurants by yourself, so you go to a movie. And it's one of the nice things about my AMC A-list. I can go see 4 movies a week while I'm on the road. But a new movie that we've been demoing, we started this weekend at Audio Advice Live, was Sinners. And if you haven't seen that movie, it recently hit HBO back on July 4th. And there's a scene in the movie that the whole movie is kind of based around like blues, juke music during Prohibition times. And there's this scene right in the middle of the movie. And we chose it to not spoil anything, and there's no violence or anything, because there's also vampires in this movie, but there's this progression of music from the 40s to the 80s to the 90s to China to Africa, and it's just an amazing 4 minutes of film. I've never seen anything like it with music ever done in a movie, and the demo went unbelievably well at Audio Advice Live. So if you guys come to our events, you'll definitely see me playing it, and I'm excited. 3 weeks away from seeing Ice Nine Kills and The Funeral Portrait and a few other metal bands where there will be a wall of death.
Actually, I know we're running behind. I'll say one last thing, because I am going to see System of a Down at the end of the month. But the week before that, no, we lost Ed. The week before that, here's an interesting story. Maybe music people have been following. Foo Fighters fired their drummer, the guy who replaced Taylor Hawkins. That is a drummer named Josh Freese, who is phenomenally good drummer. Then they went and hired Nine Inch Nails drummer Ilan Rubin, who's also a phenomenal drummer. So Nine Inch Nails without a drummer, guess who was the drummer for Nine Inch Nails for several years in the aughts? Josh Freese. So Josh Freese is now going back to Nine Inch Nails, and I will see them in Chicago in the middle of the month. That's my story.
Well, you can get your tickets, and you could look for Gary in the pit, and I'm pretty sure it'll be easy to find him. So
I always do pit because sometimes my sons want to go, or my wife, and so if I need to add tickets, I can add tickets, and we're still all together.
Yeah. Very generous of you. Or if your colleagues want to come too, we can all just hang out in the
You want to go to Nine Inch Nails, Nick? Are you hinting?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk. All right, giveaway time. We have a pair of our award-winning Prime bookshelf speakers to give away, and the lucky recipient of those bookshelf speakers is one Jason Kelly. Congratulations, Jason. Vince will reach out with your info, and we will get those shipped out for you. All right, who's ready for some extended lightning round? Let's get some questions answered here. And I got a good one for you, Ed. Some people may not know that SVS makes a in-wall subwoofer. It's the only model that we do not sell on our site, but it is something that can be custom installed. And Robert, C wants to know, how do you know where the best place to install an in-wall subwoofer? Are you doing like a wall crawl where you place it, where you normally sit, or is there a sort of way to determine the best location for an in-wall subwoofer?
Well, the beauty of the SVS 3000 in-wall is that it's a sealed subwoofer with a full enclosure, and it functions just as well outside of the wall as in. So my recommendation for our in-wall subwoofer is to wire it up and have some extra wiring and move it around the room like you would a conventional subwoofer to all available installation locations and just listen to it. And when you find the best location where the bass is the most accurate and balanced, that's where you would install it.
So I think most people are not going to do that because you typically would do an in-wall subwoofer because it's
an aesthetic thing.
It's an architectural thing. I would say that if you don't have the ability to do what Ed did, you might think about getting the 2-speaker version because that will eliminate any room anomalies that might have come from one location. Although I think just to keep prevaricating here, which means changing my mind constantly, the fact that there's 2 active 9-inch drivers in that subwoofer mean that some level of room nodes are eliminated just because of that. Because it is, even though they're near each other in the same cabinet, they are emanating from 2 different points in space. So that will help.
So quick follow-up question. Any rule of thumb as far as the height of the in-wall subwoofer? Do you want it at ear level? Is it okay to put it right next to the floor?
You can, touched on this on a previous show about placing the subwoofer on a stand and elevating it. The same concept applies. If you elevate the in-wall off the ground, you can change the frequency response because there is a floor to ceiling, a standing wave pattern, a room mode. So I would say, again, experiment. But most of the time, these are installed near the floor like a conventional subwoofer. It's simply easier to run the wiring and do the install.
And plus, you probably don't want to see the grill if you can help.
Right.
All right. Brady D wants to know, he's thinking of adding a Prime Wireless Pro sound base, which is our smart wireless integrated amplifier, 2-channel integrated amplifier, instead of an AV receiver in a secondary living room. Any of you guys doing this? Thoughts? I actually have this exact setup in my bedroom. It is a 2-channel system. It does a wonderful job of powering bookshelf speakers. It's got a subwoofer output. It's got the HDMI with eARC. So you can pretty much get everything you need out of a 2-channel system. You can't do surround sound, but if you're looking to replace a sound bar, or you don't want the bigger AV receiver to just power a 2-channel system, I'd say the sound base is a phenomenal choice for an execution like that.
Totally.
And I agree. And, I've had fun with I've actually used Prime Wireless Pro speakers more than the sound base with outside speakers. I've done both and connected to my TV. But I have gone through dozens of sound bars because there's going to be an SVS sound bar sometime early next year. And we want to make a sound bar that rivals home theaters, not other sound bars, because these sound bars just don't sound that great. And Prime Wireless Pro speakers connected to a TV sound better to me in terms of their clarity and their convincing quality and the dynamics better than any sound bar that I've had hooked up. And sound bars can be very inexpensive, but they can be expensive too. And the Prime Wireless Pro speakers are, relatively speaking, affordable.
Yeah, and that's what's here on my desk that I use every day. Literally, it just past my arm's length on either side of this 43-inch screen. But we use the Soundbase Pro in another room, hooked up with a pair of Prime bookshelves. It's an amazing alternative to a sound bar, and you've got a little more oomph. But the Prime Wireless Pro bookshelves are my favorite product, and you've probably heard me talk about that a bit because it does have HDMI with eARC, AirPlay, Chromecast, optical in. I've got my 200 disc CD player hooked up to them with an optical cable. I've been introducing my kids to that technology, and showing them just how cool old tech was. They're kind of freaking out at it, but they sound amazing. And the Soundbase Pro would be a phenomenal option. Plus, you can do multiples of them around the home and have them all talk and chat with each other and share the same music throughout your house or different stuff throughout the house.
I think the HDMI eARC is a really huge benefit with a Soundbase Pro or the speaker system. When you're hooking that up, make sure to set your TV HDMI audio out for 2-channel PCM. Whereas with an AV processor, you would set it to bitstream. So 2-channel PCM is the appropriate audio setting for Prime Wireless Pro, Soundbase, or speaker system if you're doing HDMI.
Good tip there, Ed. Absolutely. You don't want to mess those settings up and get no audio. Anup J has a question. He has a 3000 micro, but his front end speakers are a different brand. Is there any recommendation we would give as far as best advice for blending those together? And I should say this is a good opportunity to mention our subwoofer matching tool, which will actually include almost every single speaker brand out there and provide you some level of advice as far as what settings to adjust for. So look up your speakers and you can potentially get that. But Ed, anything else you would give in terms of insights of mixing a micro with off non-SVS speakers?
Well, this is, I mean, Gary's been sort of preaching this for years. Our subwoofers will blend well with any brand loudspeaker because they're inherently accurate. They have a flat frequency response and low distortion and good bandwidth linearity and all the things that make subwoofers wonderful.
Well, I'd like to say something on that topic. Just and you can sort of riff on the specific question. This is something I've been saying almost from the first day I got to SVS, which was 14 years ago, believe it or not.
Hard to believe.
There's hundreds of speaker companies out there and very few companies known for their subwoofers. Why is that? Well, because in my opinion, the reason is that speakers are so much a matter of personal taste, what they look like, what their sonic signature is. Are they bright? Are they SVS, our speakers, we try to make them as accurate and neutral and true to the content as possible. That's our philosophy. But in general, speakers have personalities. A subwoofer, on the other hand, is an extremely objective speaker. If it does its job well, and we've talked in the past about the 5 things a subwoofer needs to do well: extreme low frequencies, whatever volume that the user wants, play as loud as the user wants and as loud as the full range speakers are playing, accurate frequency response, speed and transients, meaning musical and quick, and then seamlessly blending with the full range speakers. If it does those 5 things well, it will match any brand speakers. And that's a really important point. And since not everybody knows how to make a great subwoofer, that's why there's so few well-known or well-regarded subwoofer companies. Ed.
Yeah. Getting back to and I agree with all that. The 3000 micro, to me, one of the strengths of that sub, it has insanely good mid and upper bass response and linearity, and it will blend really well with, if you're running smaller speakers that really have a deficit in the bass, you can run a pretty high crossover with 3000 micro, and it still blends beautifully with the speakers, and it's very hard to localize, and you can't say that about all subwoofers. So I think
you can barely tell that it's on, other than the bass that it's delivering.
It's right. It's amazing. It becomes
a magic trick.
It is. It becomes an extension of the speakers. So if this is a 2-channel system, reach out to our team. I'll work with you on the low pass filter settings for the 3000 micro. If it's an AV processor, we'll work with you on the crossover for those speakers. But either way will help you get a smooth and seamless integration with 3000 micro.
Yeah, and what you just mentioned there was something we did a lot over the weekend at Audio Device Live. So we had a Denon home theater receiver powering the home theater, but then we were using a Hagel 2-channel amp for playing 2-channel music with the Evolution bookshelves and the 5000 Revolution sub. And we would have to toggle between some bass management settings in the subwoofer. And when you're using a home theater, you tend to not do bass management for the subwoofer. You bass manage your speakers, where Ed was just mentioning changing the crossover of the speakers. But when you're doing 2-channel music, you're typically blending the sub with your speakers. So inside our app, you have the ability to go in and adjust the low pass filter of the subwoofer itself to blend that with the speakers and do any sort of volume adjustments you need to. And you can find that. They mentioned the matching tool on the site earlier. Not only does the matching tool help you recommend the right subwoofer to go with it, but you'll see a thing that says view recommended settings after you put in your speakers, and it'll actually give you your bass management for home theater and for music. And it's a really cool tool that if you haven't dug that far into, it'll help you with some bass management on your system at home too.
And our low pass filter is the most flexible in the industry. We have a choice of 4 slopes, 6, 12, 18, and 24, and 1 hertz increments on the frequency. It doesn't get more flexible or versatile than that. It will allow you to dial that sub in and blend it perfectly with any loudspeaker.
And then you can save a preset to make your life easy when you're going between them.
Right.
All right. We had this next question. We had something similar, and my opinion was way different than what yours was, but I'm curious to see. I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to let you guys answer first. But Charlton wants to know, he's putting together a home theater piecemeal, piece by piece. Question 1, he has an Onkyo AV receiver, and he has prime bookshelves on the left and right. Now, if he only has the budget for either a center channel or a subwoofer, which one should he get first?
I'm going to say, without a doubt, if he only has a budget for either a center channel or a subwoofer, he absolutely, without question, should get a subwoofer.
Yep.
Here's the reason why. If you have a pair of bookshelf speakers and you're doing home theater, you really will miss out on a lot of the information that's there in the content in low frequency. And look, we all know that 3/4 of the emotional content of a home theater experience comes from the sound, of course, even if you have a great TV. But I would say half of that comes from the subwoofer. It really engages you to the experience. Now, without a center channel, he can tell the receiver he doesn't have a center channel. It will direct the what would have gone to the center channel to the 2 front speakers. And is it perfect? No. Would it be better to have a center channel? Yes. But if he's sitting close to the center between the 2 speakers, he will not even miss the center channel.
No.
He'll definitely miss the subwoofer.
Totally. And the subwoofer just makes the system sound, the sub makes everything just sound bigger too. That was a big part of the demo we did this weekend with the bookshelves. And we would start a song without the sub and then bring in the sub. And you didn't hear it go boom and loud and crazy in the room. All it did was blend out nicely and make the experience larger and more immersive. And it literally brings the speakers to life too when you bring a subwoofer in. And somebody was asking about setting large to small. If you've got a receiver and it's just a receiver with speakers and you've got a subwoofer, they should all be set to small. That way you're not sending content to the speakers that they're never going to produce.
And to riff off what Gary said, if you tell the receiver you don't have a subwoofer in the system, guess where all the bass goes? The front channels, including the LFE 0.1 channel, which is very demanding. So the receiver is going to be working hard to create all that bass energy, and the speakers are going to be working hard to try to play the LFE channel. And frankly, they're not suited for it. As good as Prime Bookshelf is, it's not a subwoofer. So you're going to get way more bang for the buck throwing a sub in that system than you would the center channel. It was a bang on correct reply.
Well, that was a great question, Charles.
That is a good question, because I'm with you, man. It's a journey, I'm now at an advanced age where I can have a full home theater, and I do this for a living. But I didn't always have that ability. In fact, I was telling somebody when I was going to business school, I got a student loan so I could pay for my business school, and then I took the money from the student loan and bought a preamp with it, which is very bad. But it reminds me of money was not all, it's a journey. You don't always have all the money you need to do all the things you want to do. You got to go step by step.
Yeah. And sometimes it's an obsession. That sounds like something that probably didn't make your folks too happy. But hey, you know what? You ended up with a great system, and look where you are now.
I wasn't in the house with them. You think I told my dad that I spent the money for my student loan on a preamp? No, I did not.
I would think not.
But I was in my 20s.
All right. Well, we are due for another giveaway, and somebody's going to be very happy with a new subwoofer, an SB1000 Pro to be exact. And the winner of our SB1000 Pro this evening is Beecher Denton. Beecher Denton, congratulations. You got some sweet bass coming your way. All right. Another question we have here from Caleb M. He has an old Onkyo receiver with all SVS speakers in a 5.1.4 configuration, which is your normal 5.1. Bed layer speakers and then 4 height effects. And he's going to replace it with a Denon AVR, thinking of replacing it with a Denon 3800 to get the Odyssey in Dirac. So all that is to say, will he notice a difference in sound quality, and what should he be listening for? What are the things that he's actually going to perceive by using these auto calibration systems and upgrading his AVR if he's keeping the speaker system the same?
Well, there is a difference between those two brands just immediately in the menu and what you're able to do with controlling and calibration, because Onkyo goes so far with their speaker adjustments, and the Denon Marantz line tends to go a little bit further with bass management, crossover settings for your speakers, and conventional.
Is the Onkyo Odyssey? Is it still? They used to be Odyssey. I don't think they are anymore.
They were for a bit. Yeah.
AccuEQ is their home.
I think that's their own one, and so you definitely going to be different.
Yeah, and I kind of like the Denon sound because it's just kind of flat and neutral. I think almost every one of us that work for the company use a Denon or Marantz. I like the Onkyo because they scream a tremendous value proposition, but you may find a little bit more ease of use and customability going to that 3800. The 3800 is one that we use for shows and stuff as well.
And then the calibration, I mean, you're just going to get this whole feeling of it. If he's never run auto calibration, I mean, that alone can, really improve just everything.
Well, if his room's perfect, maybe he wouldn't have needed it, but that's very, very, very unusual.
Very rare.
And I think one of the biggest step functions is some auto cal systems on the market do not EQ the subwoofer channel. Yamaha and Pioneer spring to mind. Historically, they've never done that. When you switch or upgrade to a receiver that EQs the sub channel, that really enhances the sound quality of the system and the subwoofer. So to me, if you're looking to upgrade, make sure the system you pick EQs the sub. That would be Odyssey, Anthem's Arc, Dirac. There's a number of good systems out there, but I would add that as a mandatory must-have on the checklist for auto setup.
Yeah. All right. Well, this next question actually mentioned something that I should have brought up earlier in the broadcast. Original Robert wants to know: is there a degradation of sound when using the SVS wireless audio adapter? And I should mention we have our tri-band wireless audio adapter, which actually is between different bandwidths in order to find the most stable bandwidth to provide that wireless connection. Back in stock. It's been out for about a month or so, but we just have them back in stock. They've been flying. And so that is back in stock. I forgot to mention it earlier. But to original Robert's question, what sort of expectations should they have when using that versus using a straight up wired connection?
Well, I'll field that one. We worked very hard when we designed these products, the wireless audio adapters, to have it sound virtually identical to a wired connection. The frequency response, the distortion, signal to noise ratio, all outstanding.
And the latency is very low, meaning there's no delay or no audible delay.
It's there, but it's low. And if you do switch to a wireless audio adapter, you do want to rerun auto setup so it can take into account that little added latency. So retime. If you're running a subwoofer, for example, it will retime align the subwoofer, and you'll notice the sub distance will be a little bit longer than it was previously with a wired connection. And honestly, that's the only difference. They sound great.
Just to reinforce, if you are running duals, you're going to want them to run them both with the wireless adapter. You're not going to want to run one wired and one wireless. I know that's usually a common follow-up question, but always make sure you maintain the same connection for dual subs if you're going to use the wireless adapter. All right. I mean, I feel like we addressed phase quite a bit on the last broadcast, but I've seen no less than 5 comments about how to set phase correctly. And I did want to mention Susan's comment where she is so grateful that you're able to adjust in more increments than 0, 90, or 180. But it has her questioning, what's the best one? And she settled on 147 degrees for her phase. Maybe we can give a quick explainer in terms of what phase, you should be setting it as, and when do you even touch that, that adjustment on your app or, in the back of the sub.
Is this for dual subwoofers? Is that
it's just a single? As far as I'm concerned, I've got a couple questions here about, how do I set it so I don't mess things up? I found 147 is the best. How do I know if that's correct? And I think
I'm going to let Ed answer this other than my overview of this answer, which is don't change it unless there's a problem you need to fix. Just leave it. That is, and the reason we have continuously variable phase as opposed to what other brands do, which is basically flip it 180 or 0, is because flipping it is too extreme in almost every situation, whereas a slight adjustment to phase may help in your room or with your setup and speakers. But Ed, go ahead and see if you can paint a couple of use cases where you would adjust the phase. It's absolutely a corner case. You wouldn't be doing this, but most people will not need to do this.
Right. Normally you would leave it at 0, especially if you're running an AV system where it's going to time align all of the channels, including the subwoofer. The most popular use case for phase that we come across in customer support is dual subwoofers, one in the front of the room, one in the back of the room. And if the one in the back of the room is not phased or time aligned with the one in the front of the room, you can get cancellation between the two. The phase control will delay the signal being processed through the subwoofer. And that's very beneficial because if the one in the back of the room is closer to you than the one in the front of the room, you can dial in some phase delay and then actually slowly creep up on the perfect time alignment relationship between the two subwoofers. And in her case, 147 ended up being the magic number, and that's perfectly fine. It's a function of the room dimensions and how far the subs are from the listening position. So that's a good, and again, most popular use case. Maybe a less popular one would be if in a 2-channel system, if the subwoofer's not on the same wall as the loudspeakers and they're arriving at different times, you can use the phase control again to time align and blend the subs and the speakers so it sounds more coherent and on time.
It's kind of fun doing that too, because you can sit in your chair and just take your thumb across the slider in the app on phase, and there's a point where it just clicks and you're like, right. Whoa, the whole room just changed. So it's interesting to do that in a 2.1 system or multiple subwoofer system as well.
Yeah, you know it when you hear it. You can definitely hear the subs snap into time alignment, and they just are in sync with each other. So it's a real thing. It's a valuable control under those circumstances. And as Gary said, it is a bit of a corner case, but when you need it, it's very valuable and powerful tool. Reach out to us to make sure you're using it correctly, and we'll walk you through the process for your particular application.
Well, that was a great layman's explanation. I think that really provided the most frequent cases. So hopefully that was helpful for all those people trying to understand when they should be messing with phase and when they shouldn't. We had a quick one here. I didn't make this name up, but Blind Guy wants to know, Larry, what were your low pass crossover settings on the bookshelf home theater audio device?
So if you guys come to one of our shows, the way we do our setup is I'll run Odyssey on everything, primarily get distances if the space isn't too large. And then I basically set if we're using Ultra Evolution speakers, every speaker I will typically cross over at 60 hertz, whether it's the Nano bookshelf or the Evolution Elevation. If we're using the larger towers, maybe the Titans or the Pinnacle Evolution series, I will maybe bump them down to 40. But in most cases, in a home theater, I run every speaker at 60 at these events. And depending on your environment, you could raise or lower that based on your volume level. Like at home, if I had the same setup we do at those big events, I would probably even take the speakers a little bit lower because I'm not listening at reference volumes of those cases. But kind of play with it and see what you like. But 80 is that generic kind of home theater reference that a lot of people think of. But all of our speakers you can take down to 60 with ease in the Evolution series.
Another calibration question, and this person is definitely after our hearts. Jason R. Wants to know, he has 6 SB2000 Pro subwoofers, and he's not using rack or REW or any of those advanced calibration systems. Is he missing out by not using those to really dial in all 6 subwoofers? Or is 6 subwoofers on its own enough to kind of give you that visceral, awesome experience?
Well, 6 subs is going to have such a dense standing wave pattern in the room, meaning the way it loads the room acoustically. If they're all strategically placed, you're going to get a pretty darn flat frequency response at the listening position, simply because you're inundating the room with bass from 6 separate sources, and again, a very dense acoustic pattern in the room. So I would say you got a pretty darn good chance of getting some great sound out of that system, even before you apply any EQ to it.
At SVS, we do recommend everyone get 6 SVS subwoofers.
Yeah.
That's right. 4 is not enough. 6 is, where you should start. No, just kidding.
Yeah, we normally do 2 at all of our events, and this weekend at Audiophile was the first time I think we've done a single subwoofer in a system, and I don't even remember how long it's been since we've done a single sub in one of our home theaters. And then the new 5000 Revolution took on that room, and it was probably 15 by 25, and we had it dialed back quite a bit. So, getting in there and making adjustments. We do the shows, it's always by ear. We don't use REW or U mics or any of that stuff. And I personally don't at home because we all move stuff around a bit. But if you want to, it's just a fun part of your journey.
Did you experiment with placement, Larry?
Say that again?
Did you experiment with placement?
In that particular room, we didn't really have the chance to, just because of the way it was a hotel room. But that's I've never had more fun with a single subwoofer system at any of our shows. Like if we go back years, we'd only use like 116 Ultra or something like that, and we definitely have some tricky time placing it in these rooms. But the 5000, I think at every show, the SB 5000s or PB 5000 Revolutions, they've been super easy to set up, and I think that's a testament to the new dual voice coil and the mid-range bass change. And those of you that were in that room know that we were taking on rooms that were doing like 6 and 8 subs.
Is Jason the guy with 6 subwoofers? Jason? Because he is getting, whoever Jason is getting roasted.
He should be put on a pedestal. That's right. Well, you actually did just mention the dual voice coil design, and there was a question. Now I can't find whose name it was, but they were asking, what's the purpose of having dual voice coils in a subwoofer motor?
Go for it, Ed or Gary. I feel like I've talked a lot this show.
Gary, you want to nail it, or you want me to take it?
You take it, Ed.
So dual voice coils, dual voice coils allow you to allow the woofer to handle more power. And in our particular case, we have essentially 2 amplifiers.
Actually, 4 amplifiers bridged into 2. And so you have 1 amplifier driving each voice coil, which is a really efficient power delivery system to the driver. But also having 2 voice coils means better control of the driver.
Yep. And it allows us to have.
It's never been done in a consumer subwoofer.
No, more current, more power, less potential for overheating the voice coil assembly. There's all sorts of benefits to the dual amp, dual voice coil system versus a single coil.
And that question was from Jimmy C. So thank you, Jimmy C, for the voice coil question. It's really been one of the most important advancements we've made with our new line of subwoofers, both the 17 Ultra and 5.
I mean, it does speak to we're putting so much technology into this latest. I mean, the last generation had an incredible amount of technology, analog devices, DSP, and unprecedented power, and so on and so forth. And now with Ultra Revolution and 5000 Revolution, we have technologies completely different from the previous gen. And I'm going to say, and I don't want to sound like we're bragging, and these are our children, so we are biased, but there's never been this level of technology put in a consumer subwoofer before, not even close. The power supply, the DSP is 5 times the previous gen. The power of the amplifier is greater. The distortion is lower. The control of the driver is better. It's just a level of technology never seen before in a consumer subwoofer. And I'm glad we're getting these questions, because we were talking about it today on our team call, that people think it's just a souped up version of the last model, and it totally isn't. It's completely different.
Well, it's gonna seem like this last question we're doing is a plant, but it actually Jason G wanted to know, how do you justify buying? He says the SVS Ultra Evolution Titans when you already own the original OG SVS Ultra Towers, and I think there's the whole. We can go through the sonic benefits. The technology is one part of it, but pretty much from top to bottom, the high frequencies, the low frequencies, the mid range, everything's been enhanced. But I'd love to hear how you would explain that, Gary, for somebody who has those already phenomenal Ultra Tower speakers.
We do walk a fine line here, because I don't want people to feel like, oh, poor you got the one from 5 years ago, sad for you. I mean, I'm really, really proud of the original Ultra Series speakers. They're phenomenal. They're awesome. And they were a lot less expensive than the Ultra Evolution series. So let's be straight about that. That said, the technology we're putting in Ultra Evolution is, again, it wouldn't have even been possible when we launched the original Ultra series. The diamond coated tweeter, the process that we use, vapor deposition, to coat the tweeter with diamond dust, commercial diamond dust, obviously, would not have been possible anywhere near the price ranges we're in 10 years ago. It's technology that just is new, and that tweeter, breakup frequency is way beyond the threshold of audibility. We also have dual opposing woofers, 4 in each tower, and a time-aligned design, meaning the sound from each driver arrives at the listener's ear at the same instant. So the level of coherence, the sound stage, the believability, how convincing it is, how exciting it is while still being convincing and true to the content. Yes, they're way better, but I'm very proud of the speakers you own. So it's obviously, sometimes it becomes a math problem. Is it within my budget to do this?
Yeah, the previous Ultra Towers,
and I see this over and over again. Yeah. Our stuff does really well on the resale market. I see it all the time in my backyard in DC, where the DC Audiophile group, they're always buying and selling each other's stuff. And it stays very, relatively close to what the original purchase price was on the used market, which is
great. We have our trade-up program too. You can take advantage of that. And someone else will love your Ultra Towers, because they are amazing and they sound great. And so they benefit from you trading up, and you benefit as well. And that's the beauty of our trade-up program, and why our outlet center is just so incredibly active and popular with our customers. It literally gives people an opportunity to get into a level of performance and sound quality that they probably could not otherwise afford.
Yeah, and there's another big thing. Like Nick and I'm gonna have a similar setup to Nick back there. The Ultra Towers I could never bring into my home because they needed a little bit more room, and I just couldn't do that with our dogs and stuff. And the new Evolution Towers, whether it's the Tower, the Titan, or the Pinnacle, are a little bit more placement friendly, where you can put them right next to a piece of furniture like Nick has back there. I'm gonna have to do in this room here. So you can just put them in more places that maybe you previously couldn't.
Yeah, I was going to say the cherry on top. They're sexy as hell too. I mean, these things just look amazing. I thought the Ultra Towers were a nice looking speaker. The Ultra Evolution, I think, smokes them. So maybe that's what seals the deal. But I think everything you guys said really resonates. All right, before we get to the final giveaway of the evening, couple reminders. We will be at Worldwide Stereo in Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania, right outside Philadelphia on Tuesday, August 26th. You can find the details on our event page or on Eventbrite, or I believe Worldwide Stereo also has a listing on their site as well as on our Facebook. So RSVP for that if you want to come join us live and have the potential to win a $10,000 system. We have our next happy hour coming up September 10th, so about a month away for that. We'll also be at
live stream from Worldwide too, right?
Yep, we'll do our live stream with more giveaways from Worldwide. And then for anybody who is in the industry, we'll be at CEDIA, which is the biggest custom installer integration show in the world, well, at least in the US, in early September as well. So come check us out there. And Gary, I'm going to blow your cover. If anyone's in the DC area and wants to do some salsa dancing, you can hang out with Gary tonight. That's why he's all dressed up here, going out in the,
No, this is not what I'm wearing to salsa dance. My wife is a salsa promoter, and I have rarely gone to her events, but she I'm not going to say she twisted my arm, but I'm very looking forward to salsa dancing. I got a lesson yesterday from my wife, and we're going to do it.
Well, make sure you stretch before.
And not rumba, Nick, not rumba.
I might throw in a little tango in there. You never know. Hopefully they'll really push your boundaries. But all right, final giveaway of the evening: our Ultra Evolution Nano speakers, and the winner of those is Dan Clayton. Dan Clayton, congrats.
Congratulations.
Ultra Evolution speakers. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in. All the awesome mosh pit recommendations and great insights from the comments and questions as always. So appreciate you. Happy listening, everybody.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.